Hey, we live in a world where we often celebrate nonstop hustle and grinding. I am choosing a healthier rhythm. I will be modeling balance and not burnout. So the Grant Writing Made Clear show is moving from weekly to bi-weekly episodes in season 2 so I can keep episodes thoughtful, useful, and sustainable while taking care of my well-being. So be on the lookout for new episodes in season 2 every other Tuesday. Don't forget to subscribe so you are alerted when a new episode is released. Thank you so much for listening and supporting. Welcome to Grant Writing Made Clear. The truth is, the grant writing process isn't always clear, but with the right guidance, proven actionable strategies, and expert insights, the process becomes easier, simpler, and yes, clearer. I am Dr. Trenette, your host of Grant Writing Made Clear, and a former nonprofit president turned distinguished professor and behavioral scientist with 2 decades of grant writing experience. I remember what it was like to be a busy nonprofit leader with little time but big financial sustainability concerns. Over the years, I have transformed my skills from securing $1,000 foundation grants to winning multi-million-dollar federal grants. I created this podcast in response to the grant writing coaching requests I've received from nonprofit leaders, entrepreneurs, and professors over the years. Join me each week as I reveal insider strategies and share key lessons that turn wishful thinking into winning applications. Pull up a seat and get ready to be inspired, empowered, and transformed. Whether you're a beginner or a pro looking to sharpen your skills and create a life you love, you're in the right place, my friend. Let's get started. Welcome back to Grant Writing Made Clear, where I help you cut through the confusion of funding so you can create lasting impact. I am your host, Dr. Trenette, and today we're going to explore something people often overlook, and that is why grant writing is helpful beyond the money. You know, we all know grants fund programs and services, but if you stop there, you'll miss most of the benefits of writing grant applications. I want you to consider all of the benefits that come with writing grant applications. It's like going to a buffet and only eating the bread, right? Like you'll be technically fed when you're done, but you would have missed the feast. And so I don't want you to only think about the money. I want you to think about the process and the other outcomes that comes with grant writing. So today we're talking about why grant writing is helpful beyond the money. So when I was first starting out writing grant applications in my early 20s, I thought of grants as giant checks, right? Like big checks. You know, you get the money, you spend the money, you change the world. It's that simple. Get the money, spend the money, change the world. I had this vision of funders really as fairy godmothers who had these briefcases full of cash, just waiting to sprinkle the money all on these various worthy causes. But the deeper I got into grant writing, which was probably my late 20s, early 30s, the more I realized grant writing itself builds capacity, it builds vision, and it can lead to influence. And so the grant writing process in many ways is valuable. So even if you're not getting funded, and we know that not getting funded is part of the grant writing process, you're not going to get every grant you're writing. And if you do, it probably means that you're going for small grants. And so although grant writing and rejection is part of the process of grant writing really builds your skills in ways that you may not have imagined before. And so you think about it. When a funder asks, what problem are you solving? You can't just say everything, right? Like everything. I'm solving everything. You have to get laser focused and specify the specific problem that you're solving with your project. Are you addressing food insecurity? Are you addressing educational gaps, mental health stigma? What exactly are you addressing? For whom? How? Those are your activities, your methods, and why? Those are the questions you have to ask in order to write a fundable grant. Again, it is what problem are you solving? For whom? Why? And how? And I've seen organizations discover they were trying to be everything to everyone. And when you try to be everything to everyone, it means that more than likely you're nothing special to anyone. And so you really do have to niche down and be really clear about your specific area of focus. And we've talked about this before. Do you want to be a laser and go deep, or do you want to be a flashlight? And in grant writing, you want to be a laser. You want to be able to be very specific about your area of focus. And the grant writing process forces you to keep only what truly sparks impact. It forces you to sit down and really be clear and specific about the problem you intend to help solve. And I've talked about this in the past as well. I think that writing grant applications, certainly winning grants, can lead to professional credibility. Even an unfunded grant application will show that you're serious. And by submitting those applications, maybe funders will remember you. Maybe the partners that you've invited to collaborate with you will remember and respect that, hey, that person is writing grant applications to do this work. And that can increase respect and regard. What some people may not know about foundations in particular, program officers at some foundations will keep files of promising organizations. Even when they are not positioned to fund you, they will have a file of promising organizations. And again, that leads to professional credibility that can help position you the next time you apply for a grant with that foundation, because they will remember, oh, hey, I remember ABC nonprofit organization. Oh, hey, I remember Dr. Green, who applied for this particular grant application before. We were really excited about it, but we weren't able to fund it. Let's take a deeper look now. So the actual process of writing grant applications and submitting it can also lead to funders remembering your name. Another way that writing grant applications is helpful beyond the money is that it really requires you to think strategically. To win grants, you have to map out timelines, goals, objectives, and you have to meet deadlines. That discipline of meeting deadlines, of doing good work by the deadline, helps your team to get focused, and it requires you to think strategically. And so if you are a person or an organization that has not received a grant, a lot of times these organizations that do not have grant funding operate on good intentions, right? You know that you want to help people, but you're not exactly sure how or when you'll know if what you're doing is working. Grant applications demand specificity. They want to know how many people will you serve, by when, what will change in their lives, how will you measure that change? Suddenly, your Monday staff meetings aren't just about putting out fires, they're about tracking toward concrete milestones. And so sometimes when preparing to write a grant application, you do work that help you understand how you are spending your time. And so as you're thinking about how you spend your time, I've talked about this in the past, of wanting to track your time and track how much time you're spending on specific activities. You may find that you're spending more time on things that you should be spending less time on, and vice versa. And so the grant writing process requires you to think strategically about where you're headed. Another thing that really excites me when I'm about to write a grant application, and I am currently in the middle of writing grant applications, one of the things that excites me is partnerships, collaborations. Most funders love to see organizations working together. It shows them that we are not duplicating our efforts, and that we understand that we can't solve complex problems alone, right? Like, who are we to think that me, Trenette, my team can solve a complex problem alone? It really requires partnership. So for me, that really is exciting to know that when I am about to write a grant application, I'm going to have to sit down and think about who needs to be at the table. Who from the community should I invite? Who from the scientific community should I invite? And we sit and we think through who should be at the table, who is not at the table after we invited them, who is still not at the table. And so I really get excited to know that I am going to be building a team to help solve a complicated problem. And what's really cool is that when you're writing a grant application, that can give you a really neat reason for reaching out, because you can say to them, hey, I'm writing this application to the Department of Health and Human Services. I've been looking at the work you do. I would love to have a meeting to discuss whether or not a collaboration might be possible. It gives you a really neat reason to reach out. And so I love that most funders require collaborations, because I think if they didn't, we probably wouldn't do it. And when you start to collaborate, you realize that true magic can happen when you bring people from other fields, with other lens, with other perspectives to the table, that you really can do amazing work. And what I also like is sometimes, as I say, you're reaching out to new people. Sometimes you're reaching out to people that you met years ago, but you've never collaborated. But when you're about to do a project and that project is maybe outside of your skill set a bit, you remember, oh, I don't have the skill to focus on this particular area, but I remember meeting someone at a conference and they had that skill set. Or I remember meeting someone in my organization and they had that skill set. So I love that the grant writing process really leads us to partner and collaborate with people. And I just really genuinely believe it helps us to do better work. And I've said before, I also believe the grant writing and submission, and certainly the decision, and the decisions are not always yes, sometimes the decision is no. I believe that teaches us resilience. I believe every round makes us stronger. Now, it might make us tired if we're being honest, right? It might make us tired because you've been writing these grant applications and they may not be landing. But the more you do it, it does make you stronger. It does make you more resilient. And so, as I've said before, grant rejection does hurt. It can be painful. It can sting. It can feel like being dumped via text message, right? Because you're getting this email and it's like, no, so sorry, we received so many applications, but no, thank you. But I want you to recognize that the no is data. It's not judgment, it's data. Because you then can take that no, and usually you're going to get reviewers' feedback. You take that feedback and you strengthen your proposal. You take the time, you allow yourself the space to deal with the no and to recognize that, yes, this no is hurtful, and so I'm going to take some time away. But then you step back to the plate and you go through the feedback and you determine which comments you can address. Typically for me, if it's a rejection, I start with the major comments. I want to address the major comments first, then I'll move to moderate comments, and then maybe I'll do some of the minor comments if they are pretty easy for me to address. But you certainly learn and you certainly get to grow your application when there is a rejection. You just want to have a strategy. Again, for me, that is, I take some time away from it to sit, and then I come back ready to go, and I start with the major comments first, then moderate, and then I address a few of the minor comments if they are easy and quick for me to fix. And I'm sure you've heard before that falling is okay. It's okay to fall as long as you learn from it, as long as you grow from it, grow through it. Maybe the feedback is that your significance was not clear. Maybe they're going to tell you that your intervention was not as strong as it could be, or maybe your budget was too ambitious. Maybe your timeline was unrealistic. Maybe your evaluation plan is pretty weak and you need to bring someone with a research background to the table. Whatever it is, each rejection will teach you something that makes the next application stronger. I truly believe that when you receive a grant rejection, that it is a gift. That feedback is a gift. And so it can be frustrating, but you come back to the plate. You step back up to the plate. Yes, you might strike out here and there, but you step back up to the plate and be ready to knock the ball out of the park. How do we get there? We get there with practice. We get there with coaching. We get there with mentorship. And that's the reason why I started this podcast, because I want it to be a place where people, regardless of your background, you can access this information, and hopefully it helps you to get where you want to go with your grant writing. And so I don't know where you are in your grant writing cycle. Some of you maybe have never written a grant application and you are waiting to hear about how do you find funders. By the way, that's coming in November. The first week in November. We're going to be talking about how to find funders, the right funder for you, even in this climate. Some of you have written grant applications before, but they've never been funded. Some of you have had grants funded and you're trying to strengthen your skills. Regardless of where you are in the grant cycle, I want you to remind yourself that building skills that comes with grant writing will last way longer than the actual money. And so none of this is in vain. All of it is useful if you learn from it. If you learn what the reviewer is saying and you can understand what they are trying to teach you, you will build skills that will last much longer than any grant can. And so I believe that the skills I've learned along the way in grant writing has helped to make me resilient. I believe that not only has the feedback helped me to prepare stronger grant applications, I believe it's helped me to be able to clarify my mission. I believe it's helped me to be able to pitch stronger ideas to any board that I'm up in front of. So the skills are greater than the money. And so, I was thinking about this. I like to bake. And in some ways, grant writing is like baking. The first few times I tried to bake, I started with the box cake. But even with the box cake, it was kind of a disaster, right? Like flour is on the counter, oil is on the floor. Like it's pretty much a mess. Made me think, you know what? Maybe I should just buy a cake. Maybe I should just go to the market and buy some cupcakes. But after a while, the more I baked, something really cool started to happen. I started to develop systems. I started to learn ways of baking that would lead to a moist cake, right? And I had a lot of the ingredients already in the pantry. Unlike in the beginning when I had nothing at all and it was so expensive because I'm trying to bake from scratch and you're buying the best flour and the best sugar and the best eggs and so expensive. But now I have a lot of the ingredients in my pantry already. I have a system of how I do things. And before you know it, you are truly, y'all, this is the truth. My family tells me all the time that I could sell my baked goods like nationally, right? I'm serious. They say my baked goods are delicious, but they didn't start that way. They became that way because I had a growth mindset. I didn't give up. I knew the beginning was rough, but I continued to pursue what I was interested in. And now people ask me to bake for them. Can y'all believe it? And so I want to encourage you today to know that grant writing works the same way. Your first few applications might be a beautiful mess of good intentions, but if you stick with it, and eventually you'll find yourself having systems, having templates, having confidence that makes the whole process feel more efficient and more clear and maybe even enjoyable. I want you to know you can do this. I want you to give yourself permission to learn, practice, and grow. No one got here overnight. And I've told you all before that my grant award success is extremely high. It is atypically high, but it didn't get there overnight. I practiced. I had, fortunately, good mentors who I always remember. You can get there. And you will get there if you are persistent, if you learn from the feedback you're receiving. And so for those of you who have written grant applications before, I want you to take a moment and pause and tell me what's one skill or clarity point you've gained from writing grants. Like even if you didn't win the grant, let's say that, even if you didn't win the grant, what's one skill or point of clarity you gained from writing grant applications? Maybe you got better at explaining your work in simple language. Maybe you finally figured out what makes your organization unique. Maybe you learned to create realistic budgets, right? I want you to write down something you've learned from writing grant applications, and I want you to celebrate it. Even if you did not receive the grant, the fact that you wrote the grant and you submitted it is reason for celebration, because so many people say they want to write grant applications but never do. The fact that you submitted it, celebrate it. Treat yourself to a tea or share it with your team. I believe growth deserves recognition, and that's whether it comes with a check or not. Growth deserves recognition. So as I go to my close, as my dad would say, grants bring funding. And funding really is important, right? I understand that funding is important. It's important for our careers. It's important for the community. It's important. I don't want to minimize that. But I also don't want you to miss the bigger picture, that grant writing grows you. It grows you. It grows your team. It grows your leadership capacity. It grows your organization in ways that compound over time. The clarity you gain, the partnerships you build, the strategic thinking you develop, all of these things benefit you, benefit your team, benefit your organization, and they will stick around long after the funding ends. And here's the good news. I want to say it again. If you didn't hear me a moment ago, you can do this. You might not win your first grants. You might not win your second grants. But every time you commit to learning how to write grant applications, you're sharpening your skills. The more you do it, the better you become, especially with mentorship. I say that because I had mentorship. That's how I was able to grow. Mentorship was important for me. I took grant writing courses, and I had mentors who helped me after I took the courses. And so with persistence, dedication, and mentorship, each proposal brings you one step closer to success. Thanks for listening to Grant Writing Made Clear. If this helped shift your perspective even a little bit, please share it with a friend or a colleague who might need to hear this today. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes where we'll dive deeper into practical strategies for making your grant applications shine. And I mentioned it briefly before, but based on feedback I have received, I am creating a brand new workshop that I plan to host in early November to tackle the challenges you've shared with me that matter most to you right now, specifically how to find funding in this new era. I'll be sharing the exact date soon, so stay tuned. It's going to be a practical and interactive workshop just for you. It'll be virtual, so it'll be convenient. Until next time, please remember, you're not just writing grant applications for money. You're writing them obviously for impact, but also for clarity and growth. And that, my friend, is worth celebrating, win or lose. Take good care. Thank you for listening to Grant Writing Made Clear. I hope today's episode gave you inspiration, confidence, and clear information that you can turn into action. Remember, you are not alone. There's a whole community here striving for the same impact. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a quick review to help more people find the show, and share this episode with others in your network. It really does make a difference. For more grant writing tips and resources, follow me on social media. Until next time, keep showing up, keep learning, and remain determined. I'll talk to you next time. Goodbye for now.